Hello and welcome to another episode of WolfeSound podcast. This is J.S. Wolfe. I'm an author of The Unfolding A Journey of Involution. And I'm going to be talking about the soul today because if we're going to be talking about psychopaths and narcissists and abuse and trauma, then it's very important to also discuss the other end of the spectrum, the better side, the calmer and more peaceful side, even though the soul isn't always peaceful and healing is extremely chaotic and destructive. It's very important to discuss how we can fortify ourselves in order to walk more safely upon this earth. It's very important for you to not obsess too much over all the bad people in the world. Once you know what they're made of and how to recognize them, you got to learn how to protect yourself from them without losing your joie de vivre. It's very important to have fun and to keep things simple. So before we get into simplicity, we have to dive into complexity. The soul. Our soul is boundless and filled with light. It is love. Everyone's soul is beautiful, everyone. When we see into someone's soul, we will be filled with boundless love and compassion for them. It reveals itself in moments of vulnerability. Our soul gets buried under the rubble and debris of traumatic experiences. The severity of trauma varies. In extreme cases, the soul escapes. We're called to unearth it and retrieve it. The beauty of the soul is that it never gets truly lost forever. It sometimes leaves to protect itself until we offer it a safe haven once again. This can happen before or after death, who knows? But it is very doable for most of us to retrieve it while we're here. Let us do away with all the things that are not ours to keep. Put down the weight of your past. Heal your broken hearts. Unify your broken minds. Lose the names others called you by. Purge all trauma. Dig deep and don't stop until you have cleaned out all the dust you gathered over the years. You are beautiful. Abandon the ugly ways because you're beautiful. Make space for your soul to come home. We can only lose what isn't ours. Anything that can be lost is never a loss. Anything that is ours can never be taken away. So we got to talk about soul loss, the dark night of the soul, so to speak. And I will give you signs to recognize if you're suffering or going through soul loss. When the soul escapes, we enter the dark night of the soul. But if it wasn't for the darkest hour, the soul would have no time to rest. I believe all this is a blessing in disguise. Nobody is born all good and perfect. We learn, and we learn from these moments of darkness. We learn when we step out of alignment, because when we step back in, we come more into ourselves. Our hearts are cleaner. We have to go through this in order to reach that heart space. Have you ever looked at someone's eyes and found them devoid of life? Psychopathic eyes are mostly reported to be empty. There's no trace of humanity in those eyes. Non-psychopaths, however, can experience a different kind of emptiness. We see it when we look in the mirror and fail to recognize ourselves. This occurs in times of extreme sadness and inner turmoil. Many of us lose sight of who we are when we are in painful time of our lives. Your eyes that were once filled with hope and joy are now lifeless. When we are unhappy or drained, we feel deep loss of our life force. When you're surrounded by toxicity and you get wounded, a piece of your soul escapes your body temple to protect itself. With every wound, physical or emotional, and with every trauma and every heartbreak, another piece escapes. The greater the toxicity, the more lifeless we become. The good news is there are ways to retrieve the pieces of your soul. It doesn't have to be a permanent condition. When we remove ourselves from the environment that created the wounds and set out to tend to them, clean them up, and heal, will become a safe space for the soul to return. The toxicity can be instigated by us just the same. In this case, you must alter the way you treat yourself and others. If you are the perpetrator, then a dramatic behavioral change is called for. Here's a list of things that can cause soul loss. Any form of abuse, be it emotional, mental, sexual, physical, financial, or spiritual. Traumatic events that have not been processed. It can range from prolonged childhood abuse, public humiliation, a loss of a loved one through divorce or death. Committing crimes, going to war, and any engagement in high conflict situations. Prolonged substance abuse of any kind. Witnessing a crime or a fatal accident. Suffering extreme poverty. Being diagnosed with a potentially fatal disease. Being victimized by a partner or a trusted person. Victims of kidnapping, human trafficking, and rape. Abusing others, bullying, being envious, and engaging in malicious acts. It's important to also highlight that it's not always the incident itself that causes the trauma and the soul loss, or to push you into the darkness. You can experience a trauma, but if you're met with empathy and a solid support system and people who are not going to judge you or dismiss you, you're much less likely to actually carry that trauma around. So your surrounding is extremely important. And if the people around you are not offering this kind of support, then you don't need to stay in that circle. Otherwise, you're going to be re-traumatized over and over again. Here are some symptoms of soul loss. A marked emptiness in the eyes, constant fatigue, no matter how long you rested. That's especially true when somebody's being continuously subjected to abuse. Lack of focus and direction, vertigo and overall loss of balance, irritability and violent outbursts, low vibrational energy, mental numbness, perpetual emotional pain that leads to addictions, inability to connect with others. You have to know that a lot of times we end up numbing our pain, that it becomes self-abuse. So please think about the repercussions of that, because if you've already gone through enough pain and trauma, then don't allow that to disconnect you from yourself or turn you into a perpetrator against yourself. Dream yourself infinite. Leave yourself some breathing space. Now let's talk about soul retrieval, and how to do it. I must have been thinking of golden retrievers. Soul retrieval. Call your soul back home. Many of us have created a hostile environment for our soul. When we wage wars within our mind and our body attacks itself, our souls get evicted. To retrieve it, we must cease fire. Gradually, the pieces will return with one act of truce at a time. Love and fear cannot occupy the same space. When fear populates your mind, it clouds the soul's loving light. Only when we let go of our darkness can we see clearly again. Make yourself a safe haven. Invite the light back in. I'm not sure if you just heard my dog Santiago snore. He must be a little bored of this podcast. Number 1, mind your thoughts. Get rid of negative self-talk. Talk to yourself the same way you would talk to your child or someone you love. 2, refrain from alcohol and chemicals. I'm not advocating against or for substances, but I do know that they definitely don't help. They obstruct inner light. 3, remove all harmful people from your life. No matter how tough it is, if there's one thing that is good you could do for yourself, it's that. 4, eat nurturing food. 5, sleep well every night, preferably at the same hour. Number 6, meditate every morning and every night. Number 7, get rid of your addictions. Again, any addiction. Doesn't have to be something you eat or sniff or inject. It can be television, work, addictive relationships, all kinds of stuff. Go to therapy. That's number 8. Go to therapy, seek trusted healers, make use of nature. 9, forgive yourself for past mistakes, expectations, and missteps. Don't let people hold you hostage forever to a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. So you don't need to beat yourself up. If you learn from it and you move on, then that's good enough. You'll make new mistakes, but just don't repeat the old ones and you're going to be fine. Number 10, forgive others by releasing resentments and anger. Do not invite them back into your life if they continue to be abusive. Honestly, I've reached a point where it's very rare I give second chances when I see certain red flags. If somebody is gaslighting or like trying to manipulate in any way, especially when the situation is not even that important for them to get out of their way to try and manipulate their way through it, I'm done. There's no second chance for this person because it's all I need to know. If there's no honesty and loyalty and empathy, then it's not worth it. Number 11, take good care of your overall health. Visit doctors when needed. Bring back your joy. Remember, going to the doctor is great in parallel with eating well and exercising and having a good environment. Otherwise, the doctor will just be a band-aid. It's not a miracle. You have to change a lot of different things. Number 12, revisit your goals and dreams and make time for them each day. It's wonderful when we follow our calling and we accomplish something in a day rather than just sit around and do nothing or waste time. Because one day we're going to be on that deathbed, which I always have in my head, just to be able to see myself in retrospect and realize it would have been so easy to just do things and to follow my dream. So whenever I feel a bit lazy or procrastinate or whatever, I always think of that moment. What if it's the last moment? Would I want to have looked back and think I wasted all these years or more? Like it's just I think it's a good method to keep you on your feet and back into your dreams, to be busy and creative, and then that way you will also repel these toxic people and invite like-minded people in. Number 13, surround yourself with genuine people who add value to your life and you add value to them. 14, be mindful of what you watch and listen to. Practice intentional entertainment. Don't just leave the radio on, and these things go in our subconscious. It's awful. Like, try to have some boundaries with what you listen to. Watching the news first thing in the morning or before you sleep, whether you realize this or not, it does impact your overall state of being and state of mind, and it affects everything. It makes a huge difference. Number 15, slow down, refrain from judging yourself, and release judgments of others. Do not engage in gossip or chronic complaining. What you say affects your energy. It's a funny thing about this whole gossip and complaining. It's a mantra, and words are like a spell. They act like a spell. So if you're talking about someone, all these negative things, you're actually, the words are within you as well. It's like you're drinking your own poison. It doesn't make any sense. And if you're looking for this common enemy intimacy thing, it's not real intimacy. Focus on yourself, and gossip can be a drug. You have other things to do. You have a calling to follow. You have, I'm sure, something creative of value to do in this world. And this is taking away from your very time. Imagine reaching the last moment of your life and you wasted it on thinking of someone else that you don't even like. So think about that. Number 16, stop blaming yourself, people, or circumstances. Raise the standards of your life and take responsibility. Blame is completely useless. Accountability is fine. We all answer for what we've done or failed to do. But to point fingers, it's also another futile activity. Number 17, have integrity in everything you do. Write down all the characteristics of someone you admire. Then set out to embody those characteristics in yourself. If you admire someone, respect someone, if you like someone, think about what is about them that you like so much. And maybe if you're lacking some of these qualities, then let them inspire you to have it, to be that as well. Number 18, do not allow anyone to disrespect you. Have self-respect and healthy boundaries. I'm going to have a whole episode on boundaries. Number 19, do not behave in ways that don't represent and honor who you are. Take past lessons and make wiser choices. A lot of times we lose track and make mistakes or act in a way that is out of character and out of integrity. Maybe because we didn't know any better, maybe because we were too rash, emotional, or stupid for a moment. It's very important to think of it this way. Is this who I want to be? Before you do or say something, is this who you want to be? Does this represent who you truly are? Is it beauty or ugliness? Is it honesty or deception? You have to honor yourself. And in order to honor yourself, you have to do things that reflect that, whether you have witnesses or not. It will make a world of difference in the way you feel about yourself. And then anything you produce in this life will just elevate naturally. Number 20, have a zero tolerance policy for anything that does not align with your higher self and newfound healthy lifestyle. So it's very easy. You don't need to get confused about making decisions. Anything that aligns, say yes. Anything that doesn't align, say no. Whether it aligns with your healthy, aligned self, your integrity, who you want to be, whether it aligns with your dreams and goals and life purpose, then you say yes. Anything that distracts from that, just say no and move on. Number 21, learn to be receptive to love. It's so mind-boggling. We don't really learn this growing up. Even I know that a lot of us didn't get the luxury of feeling that pure love growing up, or we don't necessarily know exactly what it is. And I'm going to discuss this particular emotion in another episode in the emotional gym. But we don't always know how to receive it. And that's why a lot of people end up in bad relationships or shitty jobs that they can do much better. They don't feel worthy, and it's all subconscious. So begin this whole process and then sit in receptiveness, receptive to love, to blessings, to abundance, receptive to good things. Why are we so readily receptive to the negative stuff but not to the good stuff? I think because deep down we need to work on our worth and to know that we're all worthy of it. So this is how we learn to be receptive to love. Thank you for listening so far. In the next episode, I will discuss wounded healers, spiritual bypassing, and toxic healing, when to stop, and how to avoid toxic positivity. But mainly when to stop this intense addiction to a healing cycle, because at some point you're going to have to start creating new patterns, right? So tune in, and for the next episode, I'm not sure what I'm going to call it yet, probably spiritual bypassing or something like that. You're going to find it on YouTube and on my website, WolfeSound.com, and also on Buzzsprout. So I will talk to you in the next episode. And if you have any comments or questions or topic suggestions, I will read all your recommendations and will respond. Thank you. Be safe and stay receptive and open. All right. Thank you. Bye.